So Apple stock ending the day lower on news that production of the iPhone could be coming to the United States sooner than we thought under President-elect Donald Trump. Joining me now, Scott Martin of Kingsview Asset Management, a Fox News contributor, and Kevin Kelly of Recon Capital Partners. So Apple has apparently asked both Foxconn and Pegatron, those are two iPhone assemblers, in June to look into making iPhones in the U.S. Foxconn has complied, and they're looking into pricing that. Kevin, what do you think?
I think it's a good move. I mean, especially on certain parts that could be done here. I think Apple is being very conscientious of the rhetoric that has been spun out there. So as long as they're starting to make moves, headways in certain regards, I think it's a good move, especially because Tim Cook needs to find ways to keep people in the ecosystems, especially here in a high margin market of the U.S. It's very important.
Scott, I mean, it's interesting because it's sort of like, what can I put in my arsenal on my side to bring to the table to negotiate in this situation? I mean, I would think that Tim Cook is very smart. You know, I mean, he would have something else in his pocket and say, I can offer you this. What can you offer me maybe on repatriation, on taxes? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, any major American company, I think, needs to be a friend of D.C. And also by being a friend of D.C., I think in this environment is being a friend of Wall Street, which is good for the shareholders, good for the board members, good for the executives and the employees themselves. So I think working within the framework that is being set up here is very important. But don't forget, too, a lot of these companies, I mean, you've seen the tech sell-off, Melissa, since the election results came in. I mean, a lot of these tech companies, I think, are going to need to work within this new framework with how they're going to deal with maybe not offshoring as much production as they did before. And that'll be interesting to see how it impacts their earnings going forward.
All right. Well, despite President-elect Donald Trump not being a big fan of Janet Yellen, to put it mildly, she says she's not going anywhere.
I was confirmed by the Senate to a 4-year term, which ends at the end of January of 2018, and it is fully my intention to serve at that term.
I ain't going anywhere, to paraphrase her. Scott, you know, Trump badmouthed her when he was a candidate. It is a tradition in the United States for the president not to say anything good or bad about the Fed president while they're serving. Will he adhere to that or not?
Well, David, he kind of already hasn't, right? I mean, his rhetoric on Yellen so far has been pretty distrustful.
But that was as a candidate, Scott. I'm wondering, as a president, will he do the same he did as a candidate with her?
You know, David, he's changed his tune on a lot of things. I think he's softened his rhetoric somewhat so far on a lot of things, Obamacare being one of them. So maybe, I mean, you know, when he treats Janet Yellen like that, I feel like he's trashing my grandmother to some degree here. But here's the interesting thing. I mean, obviously the Fed needs more accountability. They need more, I think, reliability about their projection of inflation and employment. So I think it might be good to have Yellen kind of pass on here as far as get somebody else in there that can do a better job with regards to interest rates, because rates have been too low for too long.
Well, she gets to stay there, as she mentioned, until 2018, the beginning of 2018. But, Kevin, he does get to pick right away 2 members. He gets to pick 7 members as president. So he really is going to change this Fed. In what way do you think he'll change it? How will it differ from the way it is now?
Well, I think it's important for him to find members that can go on there and really take into consideration the impacts of reducing the regulation, especially in the banking sector. So he's going to need to have people that are experienced with that, especially because Janet Yellen's talking about she's looking to serve out her term. That's price stability. So whether she stays or not, she's actually calming the market down by saying that, and didn't want to throw off Congress. Yeah. But I think there's going to be a lot of things that they need to take into consideration, especially given that there's going to be an infrastructure package that they're talking about, tax cuts and the rules and regulations. Those 2 nominations are going to be very important, especially when it comes to the dollar rising. What are those impacts on the economy here, as well as the job number? So the Fed has that dual mandate of price stability as well as full employment. They pretty much are starting to reach both those targets.
Well, they are, but they've been wrong in so many things in the past. It'd be interesting to see if they get anything right. Kevin and Scott, thank you very much. Melissa.